It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It's the Jill on Money show, and we are delighted that you are joining us this Halloween weekend. And Mark, is the prince ready to be the best firefighter on the Lower East Side? Do you think that he would throw a fit because he doesn't want to go out, or is he throwing fits these days? Oh, a costume. I understand that. It seems like a lot of work to just get a little bit of candy, you know? Does he have a sweet tooth? All right. What was the best candy that you got for your Halloween trick-or-treating? Do you remember? Oh, Mark's a Kit Kat Reese's guy. Interesting. Okay. I was the mini Snickers, the mini Milky Ways, the little packages of M&Ms. That's me. But I don't even like it that much. I'd rather have a bowl of pasta. Let's be honest. This is not your Halloween Central. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. And we are so delighted that you are joining us today and every weekend. We would hope that when you listen and you're engaging in this, that this might spur you to ask your own financial questions. So to do that, all you need to do, go to jillonmoney.com and click on the contact button. That's it. It's all there for you. So while you're there at Jill on Money, why not just bookmark the page? That way you can come back to it whenever you do have a question. If you are just sending an email, that's fine. We try to answer them as quickly as possible. There are thousands of emails in the inbox, so you have to give us a little bit of a break. If you'd like to skip ahead and really get that question answered, the easiest way to do that is to say, bring me on the air, and we'll bring you on the air and we'll start talking. It's so easy. Mark does all the work. So again, just send us your question and say, I'd love to come on the air, and then we'll get you on. Okay. But meanwhile, Mark's like, we got to get to some of these emails every now and again. So here is from Skip, who writes that my wife and I are 56 and 54. We've got 2 kids. One in college. Oh my God, Mark, they're paying full freight. It's $82,000 a year. I mean, holy smokes. Tuition, room and board, everything. Oh God. Okay. Other kid off the payroll and doing well. Well, that's good. We are receiving public safety retirements. Wow. Wait a second. Did you see these numbers, Mark? $12,000 a month for the wife. His is about $6,800 a month. These retirements required 20 to 21% contributions while they were working. I mean, their savings are low, but of course, my gosh. Anyway, they're also, in addition to all that money coming in, that like 19 grand a month or so, they are working full and part-time. Wife's making 70 grand after she makes the maximum contribution to a 457 plan. She's also going to receive a smaller, different pension in a few years. I cannot even, this is crazy. And it'll be about $1,900 a month. He makes about $1,400 a month, another small pension. He says, now, you can't even imagine that there's any problems in this case. But here's the question. Our pensions are in good shape. I want to have enough savings in later years if pension goes sideways. What do you mean sideways? What does that mean, Mark? Does he mean if you don't get a cost of living adjustment? Oh, if they fail? Well, you're already receiving. Okay, so if you're already receiving pension payments, I don't think that's a high likelihood. Okay, but I get that you want to be very careful. So they've got 110 grand in cash, 330 grand in brokerage, 170,000 in a rollover, 140,000 in the current 457, couple thousand in a 401k. He says, we started saving seriously 5 years ago after our oldest graduated from college. Their house is worth $1.8 million. They owe about $300,000. All right, here it is, Mark. He says, I want to have $2 million by my age 65 and 3.7 to 4 million by 72. Do you think that's realistic? I think this will allow a 50% reduction in pension and still offer a good lifestyle. Mark, I don't even know what to say to this. This is insane. Where are these numbers coming from? I don't get it. So they live off their wife's pension. They save his pension as well as their current pay. And I mean, essentially, after, they're going to pay for this kid's college for another few years, they're saving, saving, saving. And my wife says I'm over saving because she feels pensions cover our living expenses. Background. Here's his back. He comes, okay, Mark, this explains everything. You ready? This one sentence tells you everything you need to know. Background. At the age of 11, I knew what chapter 7, 11, and 13 were. So the guy comes from a household where there was a lot of financial insecurity. So what can I tell Skip? What we can tell you, Skip, is that you're going nuts for no reason. And I get the reason. I mean, I understand why you want to do this, but if you are receiving two pensions, and I don't know what the, public safety, I mean, it would be very strange to have all this pension income reduced by 50%. What they're going to do is when they have problems in pension systems, they're going to penalize the new people coming in. They're not going to kill the people who are already out and receiving pensions, or they are unlikely to. But you are saving a lot of money. Are you saving at the expense of having fun? That's a question I have for you. And if not, you're just saving and life is good, that's fine. But there's no reason that you need to have these arbitrary numbers set off big alarm bells for you. I don't see any big problems. The reason to save is to give yourself a nice cushion so that maybe this would absorb smaller than expected cost of living adjustments, or maybe if you don't have any, or maybe just to have a little slush fund. But you're going to have a lot of pension income. And it is impossible for me to imagine that all these pensions will be subject to 50% reductions. Do you agree with that, Mark? I mean, he's saving almost $170,000 a year. I mean, it's just so. I mean, I guess that's fine as long as you're not feeling like panic stricken every day. I wish you. I don't know. I wish you would just. I know. I bet he is too. And I'd love for you. I really want to invite you to come on the air with us so we can walk through some of this and get some more details, because this is one of those instances where your fear has really taken over. And just in the same way that I don't like greed taking over, fear can really be incapacitating. So please, Skip, give us a holler. Oh, I feel bad for him. I mean, I don't feel bad. They're in good financial shape, but don't drive yourself crazy. Let us help you. We're going to take that anxiety off you. Do you feel anxiety? Hop onto our website, jillonmoney.com. Click the contact button. Tell us what's going on. And please let us help relieve you of the anxiety you are feeling about money. It is our delight to be able to do something like that. Okay, we'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. This is the program that attempts to take the mystery out of your financial life and maybe even take some stress off of your shoulders. And that weight can feel so heavy at times. Please let us help you. Go to our website, jillonmoney.com, click the contact button, and maybe we can do a little bit of financial therapy, not serious therapy. Okay, let's go take a listener call. We're going to talk to Stephen from Wisconsin, and we will be talking to him from the Capital One Bank virtual studios. Capital One, this is Banking Reimagined. What's in your wallet? Okay, here's Stephen from Wisconsin.
So I own two homes. I have my primary home in Wisconsin, and I have a second short-term vacation rental home in Colorado in a ski town.
Mm.
Yes, it's my paradise. My dilemma is it's time to make some upgrades to the second home. You know, when you start with one thing and it turns into a list of 20.
Mm.
So I need to get my hands on some cash. My dilemma is I'm retired, which is not a dilemma, obviously. I'm 62. But getting loans is kind of a challenge when you don't have guaranteed monthly income, which could be another whole show for you and I to do together someday.
Yeah.
So my options are either one, refinance my primary home. I have a mortgage today of about $145,000 at a rate of 3.25. Or I could use a home equity line of credit that I already have on my vacation home, which currently has a zero balance.
Okay, couple things that I want to know. Number one, so you're 62, you're retired. How are you existing? What is your form of income right now?
So I have a small annuity
Mm-hmm.
that I get monthly. And then I do get some income from the vacation home. And the rest I take out of my investments, which is the challenge. I have a 401k
Mm-hmm.
rollover, and I also have a Roth.
Okay. How much is in the Roth and how much is in the 401k the IRA rollover?
The Roth has 23,000.
Mm-hmm.
The 401k has about 795,000.
Okay. When you say you've got a little bit of income, you said an annuity and vacation home. About how much money are you receiving right now in total income?
Well, see, that's the challenge. I take out of the investments as needed. I would say about 5,000 a month.
5,000 a month? You're going to run out of money. Wait a second. Hold on a second. How much is your house worth, your primary?
I would say 3.25.
How much is the Colorado house worth?
About 450, 475.
Okay.
And that one I own outright. So someday I will either live there full time or I will take that money and live out the rest of my life comfortably.
Okay. Is the game plan to claim Social Security benefits at your full retirement age?
Yes. And that's about 66 and 4 months. So I got another 3 years to go.
Why'd you retire so early? What's up with you? You sound like a healthy guy. What's going on?
Well, I am a healthy guy. I was living comfortably and I met with my financial advisor. It was kind of at a breaking point in my career. And she said, you know what, you're good to go if you want to retire. I did that. Sounds like you don't agree. I'm curious about that.
Well, I'm just going. Did you hear that?
I really do think I'll be fine in that home, the second home I do own. I have no mortgage on that.
What is the split between, you said you have an annuity and a vacation. How much income is coming in?
So the annuity is about $1,300 a month.
Okay.
The vacation home, it's small. I would say on the high end, I would say $750 to $1,000 a month.
All right. So you got $2,000 coming in and $3,000 a month that you're pulling from this portfolio, right?
Correct. Yes.
And you're pulling it from the rollover and paying tax on that as you go along?
I am. And that's another little challenge for me because I'm also on Obamacare, which limits me how much income I can make in a year.
Aha. But you're getting the subsidies now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I were to kind of flash forward to your full retirement age, what's your Social Security benefit going to look like at that time?
At full retirement age, it'll be about $3,000.
So what it sounds to me like is the reason why I made that sound about your retirement is I don't know if I would have given that advice because I am a wimp. All right. So, Stephen, I'm coming out of the closet and telling you I am a wimp. And you know that because you've listened to the program. The reason why that it's a little bit anxiety provoking for someone like me who is a wimp is that, number one, I hate the idea that the bulk of your money is in an account where you have to pull money out and pay taxes on it for exactly the reason you're saying, which is, it screws up Obamacare. And by the way, it could screw up Medicare. But okay, let's presume, when did you retire? How old were you?
I was 57.
Oh, so you've been doing this for 5 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so far, so good. Okay. So right now you're taking $3,000 a month out of the pre-tax retirement money, which is worth about $795,000, but it's only going to be for 4 years and 4 more months. At that time, After you've drained a bunch of money out of this 401k, you will then shift and then say, okay, I will then claim Social Security, which should mostly cover my needs, right? Then we can leave the 401k alone, right? We can just let that sucker grow as much as we can. Let's say at that time let's say it's worth 600 grand because you've pulled money out, you've had to pay taxes. Do you have any money sitting on the side, just savings account rather?
Yeah, about 30,000.
All right. So then you got 600 grand left. You'll be at full retirement age. I mean, you could conceivably take a little bit of money out if you need to do something big, but you can pretty much leave that alone until you're age 72 when you're forced to take money out, right? And then and by the way, of course, at 65, you'll be on Medicare, which will be cheaper than Obamacare. And then what you're saying to me is like, hey, don't sweat it, Jill, because one of these places I'm selling and I'll have some extra cash on the side. Is that fair to characterize it that way?
Yep. That's
okay.
All in the plan.
All right. So listen, the advisor's right. You can do it. It's just, I just spoke to somebody who said something interesting. And she said, it's just that when I think about not working, it causes me anxiety, even though I really don't want to work. And so you have the ability to look beyond it. You trust the numbers, which is great, which is totally great. So I think it does work. Now let's get to your core question about how to manage this. If you were to refi the primary, it would seem to me it's not, I mean, I don't know, how long do you think you're going to hold on to this thing?
I would say at least 10 years.
Could you refinance it given that you don't have income?
Well, I do have a bank that I work with that does allow me to do that.
And would it be a 15-year, a 30-year? What would they do?
It would be a 30.
Would your payment go up or down on this based on the 30-year, the new 30-year?
Well, it would go up in that if I pulled money out.
How much money do you need for your 25,000 item punch list in Colorado?
75,000.
75,000.
Mm-hmm.
I'd do a refi.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah, I would. It's not a ton of money that it's going to add to this, but if you're willing to stay there, for 10 years, that's fine. I think the home equity line of credit can be really cheap, except if interest rates pop on you and then you're screwed. And I'm not thrilled about that as a risk going forward. I wouldn't want you to be forced to do something different, like sell your home in Wisconsin before you're ready to do so. I would do a refi. I'd get it done. In terms of the money that you spend, you have to be a little bit religious on staying within your budget because, as everyone knows who's done any home improvement project in the last year and a half, these things just explode in terms of complexity and cost. You can't really afford to blow it. What you can't afford to do is all of a sudden be at your full retirement age, and then instead of having 600 grand in that retirement account, that you have 400 grand because you blew it on this Colorado thing and you sort of rolled the dice. And I'm sure it would work out. I just don't think you'd want to be put in a position where you feel like you have to do something different in your 60s.
Yeah, that's my concern too. Well, I'm a numbers geek like you are, so I keep track of every penny. So
if you, like Stephen, would like to come on the air with us, just give us a shout. Go to JillOnMoney.com, click the contact button, say, I want to come on the show with you. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for our free weekly newsletter. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Mark, October is financial planning month, right? The month where we celebrate financial planning. I know you've got it all marked on your calendars, but this just gives me a nice opportunity to talk about our sponsor, Facet Wealth, because Facet Wealth does financial planning for lots of different kinds of people, maybe for you. This is interesting because so many organizations do financial planning now. You've heard us talk about this, right? We've got big companies are doing it with robos. Big wirehouses have always done it. It's been sort of an expensive venture. But what Facet Wealth does is they provide flat fee, conflict free financial planning. And what you get is financial planning from a certified financial planner, someone who's got to act as a fiduciary, always in your best interest. It's a dedicated advisor, not someone who's randomly comes up on a call sheet or in a call center. So if you need goal-based financial planning from a dedicated certified financial planner and you don't want to deal with wealth or account minimums, hey, maybe Facet could be for you. So you should check Facet Wealth out at their website, facetwealth.com. Okay, so let's go into a financial planning conversation with listener Sarah. She's on the line from Virginia. Hi, Sarah. How can we help you out?
All right. Well, I'm coming to you with several retirement related questions.
Okay.
One is the question that lots of people ask about, just am I on target?
Mm-hmm.
And the second question is really about where my money is invested and if I should change it up a bit.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us how old you are, how much money you make, all that fun stuff.
I am 50 years old. I make about $135,000. I'm married. I have 3 kids, and they are not too far away from college, which she says very cautiously, they're not too. How old are the kids? 12, 14, and 16.
12, 14, and 16. I have a stomach ache thinking about those ages.
They're great kids. They're great kids.
What parent comes on the air and starts with I dare a parent to come on the air and say, you know what? 12-year-old's great. 14-year-old, a complete nightmare. That's what I want someone to do. Because you all lie. I know. All right. Your spouse work?
He works part-time. He's largely the Mr. Mom of the family.
Okay. How much does he bring in a year? Or did you include that in your 135?
So he owns a business. I don't really know how to say. I would say he probably brings in about $20,000.
Okay. Let's talk about retirement. How much money are you contributing into retirement right now?
Right now, total with my employer match of $30,000 a year.
Wait a minute. Let's go. How much are you putting in and what are they putting in? What's the match?
I guess they match 2 to 1 to a certain percentage that I
Okay.
I think it's up to 5% actually. I do extra on top of what I need to do to get to the match. So I'm personally with my money putting in about $18,900.
Fantastic.
Well,
okay.
I just increased it thanks to you.
That's great. Do you guys own a home?
We do.
How much is it worth?
It's probably about $375.
Do you have a mortgage that's outstanding, Sarah?
Yes. 186.
And what's the rate?
2.375.
Are you putting money away for kids, college, or not?
Yes, I am. I have this sort of arbitrary goal to fund them just for like $50,000 in today's money. So my 16-year-old, there's about $47,000 in his fund, and then the other 2 are way behind. It's about $7,000 for one, and well, they're both about $7,000 a piece.
And let's talk a little bit about what you have already accumulated in your retirement account. Oh, one last question. When you say you're making contributions, are you making them into a traditional retirement account or a Roth?
Okay, that's a great question. Until very recently, everything I was doing was in traditional. Just a couple pay periods ago, I moved the contribution that I'm making above the match into a Roth.
Great.
So I have very little in Roth at this point, but it will start growing.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the totals. How much money have you saved for retirement?
So I have $720,000. That's
great. That's awesome. Do you work in a job where you would be entitled to a pension?
No.
Okay. Is there any way that when you look at all of this, sort of the big game plan, Is it possible that your husband the kids are now getting older, should we assume that that $20,000 stays 20,000, or do you think that that 20,000 would rise as the kids get older?
Honestly, I think it will rise, but not significantly.
And right now on the 20 grand, does he make any retirement contributions?
He does not.
Okay. And does he have any old retirement accounts?
He does, but I don't know the balances, but I would say maybe 20,000, very small.
Okay. I have a really good idea about that part-time income that he makes. Why don't you just use that to fund the kids' college? Put that 20 grand a year. So, you're done with 16-year-old essentially. You can put 20 grand a year. I would just, sort of fund it as you go along. So I would say 20 grand a year in the 14-year-old, 20 grand a year the following year, and then shift everything to the 12-year-old, and then you're done. You can make your life a lot easier just saying, hey, honey, your job is you got to put that 20 grand into the kids' college. You think he can get aboard with that?
Yeah, I actually do. That's a great idea because it would simplify the finances, really.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to pay tax on the money, but whatever is left over, that's college. Then you don't have to fret about it. It'll be done.
Okay.
And by the way, you'll know more about the kids as they start getting older, whether they're really going to use this money or not. And you can, you got 3 kids, you can move the money around. Is the money in 529 accounts right now?
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll get back to Sarah's questions in just a second. Hey, during the break, go to JillOnMoney.com. And while you're there, check out the resource section. So much great stuff that Mark does all the time. JillOnMoney.com. That's the website. And we will be right back.
If you've missed any part of a show or want to check out a past show, go to JillOnMoney.com for more great personal finance content.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And you will see that we spend quite a bit of time with our listener, Sarah, here because there are many aspects to her situation. If you feel like you want to get on the line with us, you want to come join us in the Capital One Bank virtual studios, well, then just go to our website, JillOnMoney.com, and click the contact button. Mark does all the rest. Okay, here's more of our conversation with Sarah. You're going to keep working and keep slugging away, and that's fantastic. Now that you are 50, you can actually put a little bit more into your retirement account, assuming you can afford it. I'm not saying you should do this right now, but let's say in the next year or two, you get little raises here and there. You can make a catch-up contribution into retirement plans when you turn 50. And this is one of those things that's sort of a weird thing that you're like, wow, I get to be old and put more money in? Yes, you do. So right now you can put $19,500 a year into a retirement account. You can put an extra $6,500 if you are 50 or older. You still have a young family. There's a lot going on. You don't make that much money. But if you start feeling like, hey, we got a little extra cash flow, things are good, you can bump up your contribution level, and that would be great.
Okay.
Okay. Now, all of your health benefits you get through work, life insurance?
Yes, we have term. Both of us have term life insurance.
Okay. You have wills?
Yes. I knew you were going to ask that question. We do have wills, although they are old. I don't think the last child is actually within the will.
This poor 12-year-old with only $7,000 in college. She's going to be like little orphan Annie, whoever, listen, you don't have to do this minute, but, I think that freshening up the health stuff and the wills, that sure does make sense. Okay. So, you don't have to go full bore on this, but you should have someone just review it. Make sure that you have everything there that you want to be there. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, let's get to your allocation. What's going on?
Okay, so I have I have some money in a Vanguard account, which was from a previous employer. That is all in Admiral something.
Yeah.
Fund Admiral shares.
Okay. How much is in there?
I'd say that's about 90,000.
And that was an old 401k?
403B.
403B. Okay, gotcha. And I should ask you this. Your current plan, is it a 403B or a 401k?
A 403B.
It is. Okay, good. Now, the Vanguard Prime Cap, that's an easy peasy fund. Nothing really too crazy about that. Okay. What about your current money?
Well, my current money and some previous money are both under TIAA. So I have some from a different prior employer. I have money in TIAA, which is in a life cycle fund. Oh, that's not true. It's this current employer, which is in the life cycle fund. And then the prior employer, it's like a bunch of different funds, and I don't really understand all of it. And my question was really, should I move everything to kind of a life cycle, or what's the best thing to do?
Well, first of all, I would consolidate as much as I could, even though I like Vanguard and that's all well and good. I love TI Craft. So, I mean, can you just roll the Vanguard money into the TI? I mean, it sounds like you're happy where you are. Is it possible that you would move around again? Sure. But I think it'd be kind of good for you to have all the money in one place because it makes management easier. Okay. And I really think that TIAA Craft is a very good organization. If you can push everything together, I would use that. There are kind of two sides to a TIAA CREF. Do you work in education by any chance?
I do.
Okay. So the name stands for Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association. And the thing that's kind of cool about it is that TIAA, which is like the annuity side of the organization, it's an amazing annuity product. I hate annuities. This is an amazing product. People from the for-profit sector would take a job in the nonprofit world to get access to this because it's a huge company and they have very good pricing. So it's one of the few annuities that I think is really worth it. There's a way to use that later in life when you're ready to retire that could be very interesting to you. So that's number one. The CREF side gives you many choices that are analogous to, I think, just the investments. I think that there are plenty of choices for you that are really, really easy and, they don't overwhelm you with 5,000 different choices. So yes, you can use the target date fund, but, there are also just they have socially responsible funds. They have other funds. And, I guess I have to figure out from you how much you really want to work at this.
A medium amount, maybe.
Mark, should we do mutual funds? What do you think? I'm trying to figure out whether we really should do this or not. I mean, there's plenty of great funds at TIAA Craft. They've got bond funds, they've got index funds, they've got emerging funds. Mark, should we just make it easy for Sarah? I know, because I was about to say you can use an index fund, but this is one of those times where I'm going to give advice that's sort of different than what we often will say. But they've got these lifestyle funds that are well run and they're very affordable. Wait, we're not done with Sarah just yet, so you got to hang on. One more segment with her. Go to JillOnMoney.com, ask us your financial question, and we'd be delighted to answer it. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, and let us finish up our conversation with Sarah before the end of the first hour. Here is the conclusion of Sarah's financial life. So, look, you're young still. if you look at the different funds they have, you can certainly go through and see which one makes most sense for you and your, and how you show up on they have a risk questionnaire on these things.
Mm-hmm.
But they have something that's like what they call the mid-career. Do you think that you will be working right through to 65-ish? Is that your plan?
Yes. I mean, I was thinking maybe even 67.
Perfect. Yeah. Then let's make it easy for you. I don't need to, make this harder than necessary. I would say that if essentially your idea is let me make it easy, then I would absolutely take the old fund, roll it into your TIAA CREF, and then also your husband's old retirement accounts. You can kind of put that on autopilot also, whatever. Just pick some, if that's at Vanguard as well, you can just pick, a Vanguard target date fund and you'll be done. And that's it. And then, freshen up the estate planning. Have your husband be responsible. Like every dollar that comes in, you got to put it into the 14-year-old's account right now till we get to 50 and then shift it to 12. And then let's see where you are in a couple of years. And I think that you are absolutely on track. You will, I think, as your cash flow does improve, I think you will be able to put in more money into your retirement account so you can make that extra $6,500 contribution. What about your emergency reserve fund? Any money that's socked away for safe stuff? How did I forget that?
I have about 34,000.
Is that enough to get you? I mean, you're not getting fired. You sound like you're very settled where you are.
Yeah, I don't think I'm getting fired.
All right. I think you're in great shape, Sarah. Is there anything else we can help you with today?
Oh, no. Thank you so much for all of your help. This has been really, really helpful.
Okay, well, get ready. We've got a fantastic guest. It's Brent Weiss from Facet Wealth. Our sponsor will be joining us in the next hour. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's hour number 2 of Jill on Money, and we are so happy that you are joining us. We are also delighted to have our monthly visit with Brent Weiss. He is a certified financial planner. He is the chief evangelist of our sponsor, Facet Wealth. So it's always a little bit sketchy because you're like, oh, what's the sponsor doing here? I actually met Brent before he became a sponsor of the show and Facet became a sponsor of the show. We just started to get into using him as a good resource, as someone who's in the financial planning business. And lo and behold, he thought that we do such great work, he wanted to support us. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, we are talking to Brent this time around because it is, again, October is financial planning month. And it is the end of Retirement Security Week. So we thought this was an excellent time to have Brent come on the program and chat with us and give us his take on, some of the realities of providing financial planning services to his clients and what's going on in the universe. So I always like to talk to someone who's doing it in real time. That to me is very helpful. So Brent is joining us from the Capital One Bank virtual studios. Capital One, this is Banking Reimagined. What's in your wallet? See, it's your is very provocative there. Okay, here is our conversation with Brent Weiss. Why are we talking so much about these things right now? I mean, it's funny that they have chosen October as this time. Do you think that that's people sort of are still on an academic calendar and like, all right, back to me. Now the kids are back in school. But why is this? Why are you using this as a peg for our conversation today?
Well, I think the most important thing to me is William Shatner just went into space. What is he, 90 years old?
He's 90. Who could care? I could care
90.
less about this. I
Well,
have to be honest with you.
well,
I
so
really don't.
Right. So I agree with you that I don't care that we're sending very wealthy people into space. What I care about is that doing it at 90 is showing us that we are redefining retirement as we speak. So sending the gentleman that was, exploring the final frontier in space is now sort of redefining the final frontier, which we often know as retirement. And so when we think about the traditional ways of planning for retirement 20, 30, 40 years ago, I think this changes everything in terms of how you have to think about planning for what could no longer just be a 20 or 30-year retirement, but a 30 or 40-year retirement period where you're healthier, you're living longer, and ultimately you have longer, I'll say, needs for healthcare costs down the road as well.
It's weird because the life expectancy numbers changed quite a bit amid COVID. But for, if you are healthy, you're going to live a long time, and that you could have a 4-decade retirement is just horrifying, actually. So it makes me feel worried. Like, are we saving enough for retirement? Or most people, I mean, we hear from a lot of really great savers. That's not the vast majority of Americans necessarily, but how do you think that we're doing as a nation saving for our retirement?
Well, the short answer is we're not doing very well. But the most important point I would make here is it's not your fault, right? So the listeners out there going, well, I haven't started. I'm not sure where to start. How much should I be saving? This is a problem that many individuals, families, communities, neighborhoods have. We just haven't done a very good job as a financial services industry helping educate people around what retirement planning really is. Because in my opinion, historically, the industry has said it's about, financial planning is about two things, investing and retirement. But I think there are so many other facets of life out there that we need to help individuals with. I would say if it touches money, if any decision in life that touches money, it should be a financial planning decision. So we haven't done a very good job because we haven't been educating individuals, families, neighborhoods, et cetera, about healthy financial decisions. We haven't helped people understand how to even get started, right? Because here's what typically happens. You need $4 million to retirement. Someone's sitting there with 30 grand in the bank going, no shot.
Oh, listen, we just talked to this guy, John from Seattle. His shrink told him to talk to us. Okay. His shrink, because he's feeling so much stress and anxiety about his financial life. All right. So this is a 39-year-old guy who is married, and he and his husband make like 250 grand a year. They are both saving a lot of money. They did get a late start. Do you know what's caused this stress? He read one of those redonkulous articles. It's like, you need that many $1 million by the time you're this. And it didn't take into account all of the interesting permutations of his situation. So this guy works in the public sector now. So he is now saving 22% with him and his employer into his retirement plan. His husband is a teacher, has a pension and a retirement savings plan. So you put it together, they're totally on track. They're going to be fine. But that one article freaked him out, and he's been carrying this stress. And he says, I'm so stressed out about money because I'm so late to the game. He kept saying this. And then he says this article, and there must be something about human nature that wants to just quantify this and give us a rule of thumb, which really is just terrible, right?
Well, so if we go back to like sort of just the fundamentals of the human brain, we need to quantify everything because it helps us feel in control. So having some number that says this is my bogey, this is what I'm shooting for, helps us understand, okay, this makes sense. Why am I saving 20% of my pay? Well, because you're saving it because at some point it will equal some millions of dollars in the future. To your point, though, around the biggest issue I see, and I'll say in the media in general, I'm painting with a broad brush, but in financial services is there's too much cookie cutter advice. So in this case, look, I've worked with clients everywhere from teachers who, when they retire, have Social Security and pensions. They actually don't need any money outside of that because Social Security and pensions cover it, to people that don't have pensions and they need several millions of dollars. Somewhere in between is likely where you fall. And the challenge is when we start looking at this, whether you're 20, 30, or 50 or 60, sometimes defining how much you need, because when you stop working, what happens to your taxes, right? Will my lifestyle change? Where am I going to live? Am I going to sell my house? Will my mortgage be paid off? What about my kids? Here's an interesting fact. One of the biggest stressors for retirees is actually being afraid that their kids are going to come home and live with them. I found that to be quite interesting.
I got to tell you something. I mean, I think that after the last 20 months, I think that there have been a ton of multi-generational families and I wonder how much of it is going to stick, because part of it is kind of nice, right? I mean, but you don't want to be responsible for the kids, but it would be kind of cool if you had a decent relationship with your family where you could have some co-living arrangements, but you don't want to have the financial responsibility for them, right?
So the interesting thing, if you do this right, it actually can be very good for your family. Because if you think about the costs of, caring for your health and retirement, Fidelity did a study a while back, and they said for a married couple at 65, so assuming a 20 to 30 year retirement, we'll need about $300,000 just for general healthcare costs. That's your Medicaid premiums, your doctor's visits, the things that happen. That's not even including long-term care. One of the reasons that number keeps going higher, we'll stay away from the healthcare industry today. One of the reasons that number keeps going up is because we're typically on our own when it comes to providing that care. So we have to save for having it, like going to the hospital, for transportation, for having people come in to provide for some of that care. The closer knit families that have a closer nucleus that are geographically sort of located in the same area actually have lower healthcare costs because family chips in. But here's the one thing that we don't track in that $300,000 number. And I've done some research on this myself, is how much it actually costs the kids in lost wages and lost retirement savings to help make sure that mom and dad are okay.
When we return, more of our conversation with Facet Wealth's Brent Weiss. This is Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are here to take the mystery out of your financial life, maybe try to untangle some of the knots that are forming in your financial life. And sometimes you just need someone to help you out with that process. So we encourage you to hop onto our website, jillonmoney.com, and to click the contact button. That's where you will be able to ask us your question. If you would like to come on the air, then just say, I want to come on the air. And Mark does everything else. It's just so easy. Today, we have a great guest, Brent Weiss. He's the chief evangelist of Facet Wealth, and we're talking to him about how you bring other generations into the financial planning conversation. Here is more of our interview with Brent Weiss. So how often, when you're doing a financial plan, do you want to bring in the generation up or down? How do you find that has been for you as a planner, as a CFP?
So what I can share with you is, and I'm not kidding in this, in 100% of my client relationships, other generations of that family eventually get brought up. What typically happens is, because we tend to have, I'll say a younger, and younger is a relative term, but we have clients typically in their 30s, 40s, and 50s who are still preparing for retirement, have time to sort of get started or get back on track. What typically happens is we get them into a good spot and they start thinking, wow, I feel really good. And then on one call, they'll say, hey, Brent, can I talk to you about my dad? Or can I talk to you about my mom? I'm not sure if they're financially well off. They're about to retire. I don't know how to start the conversation. I don't know what kind of money they have. Now, there's a spectrum, because some people have very open, honest conversations with their parents about money, which is not easy, number one. We've talked about that before.
Yes.
And then some people have no idea. It's like a black box. And they're saying, first of all, they're saying it because they love and they care about their mom and dad. And they're saying, I want to make sure they're okay. What do I do? Can we start talking about that? And of course, the answer for me is yes, we can. I'm always open to having that conversation with the family and then saying, if there's a need for a greater change to the scope of the relationship, we can talk about it. But in 100% of my relationships, in the first, I'll say, year or two, it takes a while to get there because they have to trust me first to share family things. That always comes up when we start talking about not only their retirement well-being, but making sure mom and dad are okay for their next 20, 30 years as well.
So what do you think in terms of having that conversation? Let's talk a little bit about someone who is not as lucky as having a Facet Wealth advisor, but maybe also wants to have that conversation around, would you be willing to come? It sort of feels like, you're in a 12-step program or in therapy and you're saying like, I really want you to come to this family session with me. And so how do you think people can bring that up and not get too much pushback? And I'm presuming that it's hard, as opposed to like the people who are like, oh, that's no problem. They just, no, whatever, like that it is going to be hard.
This is a very nuanced topic, and I promise that's not a cop-out answer, because it does depend. The first thing I mentioned to my clients, because it takes the stress, and we were talking about stress, our biggest stressors in life, and money actually happens to be consistently ranked as one of the top causes of stress in life. So everyone's thinking about it. Your parents are thinking about it constantly. They're probably thinking about healthcare longer term. The first thing I mention to my clients is if they're more open to talking to someone else, a third party, that typically can break down some barriers. And I do that for my clients at no cost. It's just initial, it's that consultation, but I hate that word too. It's just a call to talk to mom and dad. Hey, how you feeling? How are things going? You have to see if they're open to that too. If they're not, the frame you have to take into this conversation is not tell me about your money. Because if you go to anybody and say, how much money do you have, mom and dad? They automatically put up these walls of defense. The first thing you need to say is, can we start talking, even sharing your own financial plan? Here's what we're doing in our finances.
I love that idea.
Creating
I love that.
Because then they're going, oh, well, this isn't about sort of interrogating me. They're actually sharing this because they want to make sure that they know that I'm okay. Hey, by the way, I have estate planning documents and I need your help in X, Y, and Z. That's not a fun conversation, but at least they understand that they're involved. And then you can say, hey, mom, hey, dad, or hey, both mom and dad, depending on sort of your family situation, is, I want to make sure the two of you are okay. And I don't care about money. I expect nothing from you, but I want to make sure the two of you have the retirement you deserve. And I understand what's going on and can support you in the best way possible. That takes a different approach of, hey, my son or daughter cares about me versus how much money do you have?
Yeah. That's right. That's right. I think and I think that like sharing your own, that does open the conversation in a very important way. I also think it's been interesting for me to hear from so many of our listeners around, they'll often come on with us or send us emails about something very specific. It could be an investment, or it's like, am I on track? But in the conversation, so much more is revealed. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that through the financial planning process, how much more information that you are able to glean besides just like, is my allocation all right? Or can I hit my retirement number? Like there are so many other things that you discover. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. One of the unique things that I do for my clients is when I first start is I give them a homework assignment between one of the first couple meetings. By the way, this also does change depending on sort of your age and how close you are to retirement. If you're 30, the conversation is different than when you're 50 or 60. Because when clients are 50 or 60, we dive more into not just how much money you have or how much can you spend. The conversation shifts to how do you want to spend that money? What do you want to be doing? But generally speaking, the homework assignment I give to all of my clients, I say between now and the next meeting, I want you to sit down and think about when we're sitting here 3 to 5 years from today, what has to happen personally, professionally in your life for you to look back and go, wow, that was a really successful period of time. Now, I let them pick their own time frame. So if they want to do 10 years or 15 years, they can. If they want to do 12 months, doesn't matter. But here's the key. The thing I didn't mention is what has to happen financially. Because what I don't want them doing is giving me the typical answers I hear from every new client that I have when I say, oh, what are your goals? Well, I heard it should be retirement, and I have kids, so saving for college and investing. Those are the three things I hear every single day. And I want to go deeper than that. And by asking this question and they come back, I go, because the trick is you can't talk about money. You can't, like at the end, maybe you can, but I want to understand what matters to you in life. I've learned more in those conversations with my clients than I've ever learned just talking about your investment allocation, stocks and bonds and 60-40, whatever it is, because then they really start sharing what matters most to them. And then my job as a planner is to help them understand how they can align every decision they make with their money with the things that matter most to them. That has been a true game changer for me in terms of how I work with my clients.
Well, let me ask you this. In the COVID era and hopefully now we're moving into post-COVID, God willing, do you think that that's a different conversation today than you had 2 years ago, that people's eyes have been open to what does matter to them?
Short answer, yes. Longer answer, I think we'll go back to more the norm, but during periods of, periods where there are shocks in our lives, emotionally, physically, whatever, we start to think differently. But this has been a really strong period of reflection for a lot of people. I mean, just look at the housing market, right? People are saying, why do I want to be in a city locked up in an 800 square foot condo with 3 kids running around and 2 dogs? I want to think differently about that. Well, why am I in this job? Well, I'm in this job because I live in, I'll say Baltimore, New York, because that's sort of where we are today. And saying, well, well, if I can now work remotely, where do I want to be? If I can work remotely, maybe there's actually something else I believe in more. The biggest question I get from my clients nowadays are, can I take a pay cut to do something that I love? If I change jobs and I don't make as much money, what do I need to do in my plan to make sure that my family, that we can still live the lifestyle we want, that I can still take care of our kids, we can still save for retirement? People have been thinking differently. Here's one of the key elements I mentioned to my clients, though. This doesn't mean you can't make big decisions during periods of higher levels of stress. But when we do that, we tend to make mistakes. And this is not you or me, this is everybody. When there's higher levels of stress, financial stress, emotional stress, whatever it is, and COVID-19 is a big cause of stress, we need to be more intentional about the decisions that we make. So when clients are saying, hey, I'm really thinking about these big goals now, I go, that's amazing. Let's start thinking through these and maybe give it 3 or 6 months to make the right decision. If you do that and think through it, then I've seen my clients make really, really good decisions. When we rush into it in a week or two, I've actually seen some mistakes being made in the last year or two.
We'll get back to Brent Weiss in just a second. Now, here's an idea. During the break, go to JillOnMoney.com. And when you're there, you can actually subscribe to our 2 podcasts. One is called Jill on Money, and the other is called Eye on Money. Check them out. All you have to do is go to our website, and everything is right there. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are continuing our conversation with Brent Weiss of Facet Wealth. Facet Wealth is a sponsor of this program. And in this segment, I think we're doing something that everybody needs to do, which is talk about how we approach the financial planning process after going through what we've all just gone through, this horrendous 19, 20, coming on 21 months of this terrible pandemic. How should it inform what you do next? That's what we're talking about with Brent Weiss. So tell me a little bit more about financial planning in the post-COVID era. Tell me more. Have you seen any difference in the way people are looking at, say, education because of that strange couple of years where college students experienced online learning?
I would say for the kids of my clients, I don't think education, the thought about education has changed. Because if we think about that, like what are the challenges we have around, most people go, oh, well, student loans. There's like this myopic view of college. I'm a firm believer there's a ton of value in going to college universities. It may not be in standard curriculum, but even now, as we get back to, I agree with you, hopefully in a post-COVID-19, we'll get back to sort of the normal piece here. The interesting thing for me is actually hearing how my clients that are professionals, they're thinking about education differently. They're not just thinking about what's the next certificate I can get in, and we're a fintech firm here at Facet Wealth. So we have engineers and developers, and what's the next certificate in coding, right? Like writing scripts so you can actually build technology. But they're actually starting to think, well, actually, how do I become a better communicator? How do I become a better leader? How do I become more dynamic as a professional? And I think a lot of this is actually because they're thinking about what's the next career opportunity for me, not just this linear path of, look, if we look at retirement 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, you worked at the same company for 30, 40 years. You collected your pension and your gold watch and you walk away. I mean, now people are changing jobs every 3 to 4 years. They're trying to figure out how do I actually, and with technology changing the way we operate so quickly, we have to be more dynamic. And I'm very impressed at my clients that actually see this trend taking place, and they're trying to figure out how do I become more well-rounded, right, in my overall professional value that I bring to an organization. And they're looking at different certifications, different programs. For our planners here at Facet, we're setting them to learn about the psychology of money, not just retirement decumulation strategies.
I think that's so smart though. And we talked about that last time you were on the show that, that you have to have some of those skills and how do you really how do you become better at what you do? It has to be what else makes you better at your job.
Well, of course. I mean, think about it this way. When we used to, so as a financial advisor, I used to sit down before FAFSA. We started FAFSA completely virtual, remote. That's become the thing now, right? Because COVID-19 accelerated the adoption of sort of virtual advice. But before that, sitting down and running, whether it's running a meeting with my team or running a meeting with a client across the table, is a very different skill set than trying to do that via video conference. I actually run a coaching and training session for all new planners here at FAFSA. I call it the speed of trust. It requires a lot of trust to air your dirty laundry about finances, the good and the bad, with someone via video conference you're just meeting. Yeah. And so we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what are the skill sets we need to develop and learn as professionals in sort of the post-COVID-19 era to do more work remotely. How do you manage a team or lead a team at your company via video conference when you can't sit down and break bread or have coffee? How do you run better client relationships or client meetings? These are all softer skills that nobody ever teaches you in school. This isn't taught in the CFP curriculum. And so I think this is sort of like the next frontier of professional development.
It reminds me of doctors. Okay. Like there was a time where the doctor was, an academic and learned certain things. And then slowly but surely, it was a remarkable thing that doctors actually had to talk to their patients and not just lecture to them. It was very funny. One time, a friend of mine from college who is a surgeon now, I once asked her, I said, hey, what do you think is like the most important thing that you did that helped you advance your career? She goes, well, I'll give you two things. One is I took time off before I went to medical school and actually learned what it was like to live in the universe and have real conversations with people. And she goes, and the second thing is I learned how to speak Spanish fluently because I live in a huge urban center where so many of the staff and so many of the patients are Spanish speaking. I said, that's funny. You didn't tell me this surgical. She's like, whatever. That's like the skill set. Like that's shooting layups, Jill. That's practice and you can get really good at it. But, actually what makes me a really good surgeon is that I am a bit of a unicorn for someone in their 50s, which is actually talk to my patients. And I don't just talk about the procedure. I talk to them as human beings. And that always resonates with me. Like all of our professions where we sort of rely on some technical expertise, you do need the soft skills to be better at what you do.
Absolutely.
No doubt. All right. It is FAFSA season. Can we just do a quick FAFSA? Why does everyone need to do this? Hey, Brent, I make too much money. I'm not doing it. Why do I have to fill out the form?
Here's why. The name of the actual form itself, right? FAFSA, Free Application for Federal Student Aid, is wildly misleading. Because what people think is, well, if I make too much money, I'm never going to get federal aid. But here's the interesting thing. If you want to qualify for anything, and some universities do that, I'm saying organizations, universities do this. I mean, non-federal grants from state governments, private entities, colleges themselves, even merit-based scholarships, right? So not needs-based financial, like loans and grants and all of that, require you to complete the FAFSA, okay? So the single most important thing you can do if you're looking for any way to offset the cost of a higher education is complete the FAFSA. Maybe you don't get money, but you can. I mean, think about it. Not even need-based, right? Merit-based scholarships for your son or daughter. You have to complete the FAFSA. Now, every school is different. So if you're thinking about certain schools, call their admissions department, ask them about what aid is available, not related to that. And if you want some student loans, just so there's some skin in the game for your kids, you need the FAFSA as well, because they will not give you federal loans unless you've completed the FAFSA.
We'll get back to our interview with Brent Weiss of Facet Wealth in just a moment. When you're on our website, JillOnMoney.com, don't forget you can go listen to past programs. It's so easy. Just go to the Listen tab or maybe read some of the stuff that we have put up out into the universe, into the blogosphere, as it were. Okay, we'll be right back.
If you've missed any part of the show or want to check out a past show, go to JillOnMoney.com for more great personal finance content.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are concluding our conversation with Brent Weiss. Now, Brent is the Chief Evangelist, which is a total made-up title, at Facet Wealth. Facet Wealth is our sponsor, so I just want to make sure you guys know that. Again, Mark and I met Brent through a totally I think we met Brent. I met Brent through Michael Goodman, who also a friend of the show, another CFP, who had told me about Facet Wealth and that they were doing things differently there. It's always interesting when you get someone referred to you by another financial professional who says, this is a cool model, check it out. So I did check out Facet Wealth, and I learned a lot because when I was in the financial planning business, I tried to do something similar to what Facet Wealth does, but I completely failed. It was like, I don't know, we just weren't set up to do it the right way. But what is Facet Wealth? It is an investment advisory financial planning firm. And what they do is they provide their services to a much broader array of potential clients than most other firms do. So it's financial planning that is accessible to everyone. And the financial planning they do is a flat fee, conflict-free model. You get a certified financial planner, a dedicated one, who must act as a fiduciary at all times. And what they're really trying to do is goal-based financial planning, which is, I think, exactly what we do on a mini level when we talk to you guys. I think the one big barrier to financial planning is not just that it's sort of a hard topic to tackle, but that there are often these firms that have very high wealth or account minimums. Well, Facet doesn't do that. They meet you where you are. So if you want to check out Brent, he's awfully cute. You should check out his picture also. Go to facetwealth.com, facetwealth.com. And again, we're happy that they are our sponsor. So it looks to me like we got to get back and finish our conversation with Brent. Now, when Brent comes on every month, he does tell us about this thing called the 1% challenge. Like, change one thing in your life, just make it 1% better, and you will thrive. It's not a guarantee, but maybe you will. When we had him on last time, I don't know why, Mark, I guess we completely forgot to do the 1% challenge. But this time around, Brent has got to come with hat in hand and tell us about his 1% challenge. Here is the conclusion of our interview with Facet Wealth's Brent Weiss. Let's talk a little bit about your 1% pledge, which, by the way, I glossed over.
I knew you were going to do this.
But, I glossed over it last time you came on, and I forgot to do the 1% pledge. This is Brent's pledge to us, where he says he's going to make a slight shift in his life, a 1% shift that will ultimately add up to an enormous amount of progress for some part of his life. It can be financial, but maybe it's not financial. So what do you got, man?
All right. So I'm going to frame this so it sounds like a positive update, but it's really not. Maybe I should just call myself out on this.
Call yourself out. Own it, baby.
I didn't do my
Own
homework. I'm a financial planner. It's like the cobbler's kids that have no shoes.
Yeah.
I'm a financial planner that didn't fall off my 1% pledge. Here are the things that I did do early in the year, right? So we talked about maxing my 401k. I'm doing the backdoor Roth IRA. I started an individual brokerage account. And putting, by the way, this is my 1% pledge thing. So I put just like an extra 1% in that account, and I'm revisiting it. I finally did my tax planning coming out of the October 15th deadline with my CPA. Yes, I have a CPA. The big miss for me is I moved to Florida, and this is all the way back in January. Like it pains me just saying this. I was supposed to update my estate planning documents. And here we are in October, and I haven't. I've spoken with an attorney, but I haven't taken any next steps. And I need an accountability partner. Even financial planners need financial planners to hold them accountable.
All right. Now, are you still wearing that stupid thing on your wrist till you work out like a maniac?
Yes, I am wearing the stupid thing on my wrist, and I love it.
Okay. So is there any way that we can sort of tie these two things together?
Well, we
can give you a prompt for that?
We are working on that here at Facet in terms of how do you make like financial planning cool and sexy, just like health and wellness is now.
Good luck with that, dude.
Cool thing. Well, we're gonna figure this out. I like the challenge because sometimes we just need a little nudge. And by the way, I do this for my clients. I email them, some of them once a month, because they ask me, can you just nudge me in terms of paying down my student loans? Can you nudge me in making these changes? Typically, it's like 6 months later, I'm still nudging them on estate planning. And I'm here doing it myself, and I'll have to commit. You're going to hold me accountable. Your national audience is going to hold me accountable. I will get this taken care of before the end of the year.
Well, I don't say you have to have the documents that are signed, but what I think you have to have is at least a initial bunch of documents that have been created. How about that? So that's all I need from you. I don't need you to have it signed. I'll tell you what, by the end of the year, you want drafts.
For the two of you, I will do it. I will have my drafts completed by the end of the year. And I thank you for being my accountability partner.
We're happy to do that. Well, thanks so much to Brent Weiss for coming clean. I thought that was important for us to put out there for you guys in that, I'm not perfect. Brent is not perfect. Mark is not perfect. We strive to do these things. We strive to, put our best foot forward when it comes to planning. But everyone's a human being, and that's okay. You can fall off for, 1 month. You can fall off for even a couple of months. But what we try to do with you is to kind of keep you on track. It is not a failure, okay? It's not failure. I don't want anyone to feel less than. You're allowed to say, I screwed up for a while, or I didn't go to the gym for a while, or I didn't get on the Peloton for a while. Yeah, it might take a little bit more work to get you back on track, but we'll do it, and we're happy to do it with you. So let us know if we can help you. Our website is jillonmoney.com. Click the contact button, and Mark and I are going to do everything we can to help get you back on track or keep you on track. Okay, we'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. And we are just about to conclude the program. But before we do, got a very perfect email to end this show from Jamal, who subject says investment. The message is, I have about $2,000 that I want to invest. What should I buy? Thank you, Jamal. You've now given me the opportunity to give you all a little refresher. If you're off track, if you're trying to get someone else on track, don't forget that just putting $2,000 to work means actually asking different questions. For example, have you covered your big three? Have you paid down your consumer debt, maybe even your student loan debt? Have you established your emergency reserve fund of 6 to 12 months of your living expenses? And have you maximized your retirement account to the best of your ability? Now, Jamal, I'm going to assume that this $2,000, maybe it's $2,000 extra after you've done those three things. But if you have any outstanding debt, credit card, auto loan that's more than a few percentage points, maybe you got to make a student loan payment starting in January. If that's the case, then let's get that money working to get your debt whittled down. If you need to put money in your retirement account to capture the match, do it. If this is just pure extra money that you have because you're already putting $19,500 away, then great, fantastic. You can just open up a brokerage account. You could open that account at Vanguard or at Schwab or wherever you want to do it and put your money to work, maybe in just an index fund. When you have a question like that, it begs a larger question of what else is going on in your financial life. And if you need help with that, we'd love for you to contact us. Don't forget, jillonmoney.com, hit the contact button. Tell us if you'd like to come on the air, because we would really love to have you come with us on this journey, this financial journey. Okay. And of course, you can subscribe to our podcast, Jill on Money and I on Money. You can get it on Apple or Google or Odyssey, wherever you find your favorite podcast, or just go to our website, jillonmoney.com. Our music is composed by Joel Goodman. Mark Talercio is our executive producer. And please try to do something nice for someone else today. I promise you, when you do that, it will make you feel better. It will make that person feel better. Have a very happy Halloween. Please be careful out there, and don't eat too many Snickers. It's really bad. It hurts your teeth after a while. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.